the paper trail, date stamp 53. It ain't about justice, it's about eliminating the key. They wrote a handbook on how to make a body disappear. Call it wet work, wipe away the trace of every fear. The study of assassination, section 2 is the coldest page, saying the best killing is one that looks like a life-ending stage. No bullet, no dagger, just a perfect tragic fall from a bridge or stairwell. Gotta give it your all.
75 feet or more onto a surface hard and cold. They close the case as accident. A simple story told. This ain't fiction, this the manual etched in government steel. The art of state-sponsored murder, hiding how they really feel. The most efficient technique, designed to cut the cord. A quiet exit for the target who couldn't be ignored. The most efficient technique, designed to cut the cord. A quiet exit for the target who couldn't be ignored. They don't send a high-tech spy, just anything that's handy, man. A wrench, a wire, a kitchen knife, following the whole plan. Manipulate an agent, put the blood stain on his glove, while the architects of murder watching from the seats above. They label the victim unstable, a fanatic in their prime. Push the blame to mental health, hide the engineered crime. In Latin America, the groundwork for control was laid. Every dissident silenced, every threat they swiftly swayed. 75 feet or more onto a surface hard and cold. They close the case as accident.
They close the accident.
A simple story told. This ain't fiction, this the manual etched in government steel. The art of state-sponsored murder, hiding how they really feel. The most efficient technique, designed to cut the cord. A quiet exit for the target who couldn't be ignored. The most efficient technique, designed to cut the cord. A quiet exit for the target who couldn't be ignored. It's the clinical nature of the ending that cuts me deep inside. No passion, no remorse, nowhere left to hide. Just an operation that cost-benefit report. Trading human life for power, making death a cold sport. From DC's ivory tower to a dark hotel room's ledge, they decide who gets to live, pushing souls right to the edge. The secret, you know too much. The knowledge that you hold is worth the price of a life, taking a story left untold. The final curtain drops in the darkness, the fall is quick and fast. A tiny pellet in the skin, the death is meant to last. 75 feet or more onto a surface hard and cold. They close the case as accident. A simple story told. This ain't fiction, this the manual etched in government steel. The art of state-sponsored murder, hiding how they really feel. The most efficient technique, designed to cut the cord. A quiet exit for the target who couldn't be ignored. Most efficient technique, designed to cut the cord. A quiet exit for the target who couldn't be ignored. You talk about justice and the law, but you wrote the script for the fall. Every life taken to protect your corporate greed. Every accident is a lie you told to the world. You stained your hands with blood, and you called it national security. Shame on you for turning murder into policy.
They want the bananas, they want the cheap land for the firm. So the people's honest leader gotta crash and gotta burn. He wanted land reform, he wanted rights for all the folk.
True power.
But that scared the powerful, so they played him like a joke. Into the voice of liberation, a frequency that falls, pumping out the fear and chaos, never counting up the cost. Operation Sherwood, spreading rumors through the night, turning neighbor against neighbor, blurring black and blurring
That's
white.
the sound of the hearts and minds war, whispering lies into the dark, demonizing the good man, leaving a permanent mark. They called him communists, a puppet to these, just to secure a business deal, feeding the corporate beast. You can't trust the narrative when the source is bought and sold. Propaganda is the weapon more deadly than pure gold. Pure gold.
They leverage the media, the press and the organized church, printing up the fiction, completing the dirty search. John Foster Dullars on the screen, selling a fake threat, while they plan to coup behind the scenes, never breaking the sweat. The New York Times, Washington Post, repeating the same lie, convincing the whole West that this Democrat needed to die, or to prevent the domino effect, keeping the wealth in the grass. The price of corporate profit paid in the people's lab.
That's the sound of the hearts and minds war, whispering lies into the dark, demonizing the good man, leaving a permanent mark. They called them communists, the puppet to these, just to secure a business deal, feeding the corporate beast. You can't trust the narrative when the source is bought and sold. Propaganda is the weapon more deadly than pure gold.
They didn't just break the system, they poisoned the well of truth. Took away the innocence, robbed the promise of the youth. They took a free nation, forced a dictator to command, all because a good man wanted to nationalize his land. The whole world watched the broadcast, believing in the smoke, while the violence and the massacres were the silence that awoke. 200,000 civilians disappeared and murdered there. The silent holocaust of a people across too heavy to bear. And the victory was celebrated, replicated again. The perfect blueprint for control, the poison from the
That's the sound of the hearts in Miles War, whispering lies into the dark, demonizing the good man, leaving a permanent mark. They called him communists, the puppet to the east, just to secure a business deal, feeding the corporate greed. You can't trust the narrative when the source is bought and sold. Propaganda is the weapon more deadly than pure gold.
You manipulated the world's press, and you lied to the American people just to keep a fruit company rich. Stole a nation's democracy and replaced it with terror. You taught the world that the truth is just another tool to be broken. You owe the people of Guatemala more than a declassified apology. You owe them their future back.
I'm standing in the Golden Triangle, smelling the opium smoke. Heavy war against communism, secret deal you just invoked. You needed warlords loyal, fighters on the payroll, see. So you shielded the traffickers, granting them immunity. The French connections moving dope from Corsica to the USA. While you talk about a drug war in the light of day, you armed the KMT. General Lee was your friend, knowing he controlled the trade, making profits that'll never end. You made a deal with the devil, dirty money, dirty change, trading human addiction for a geopolitical gain. You saw the heroin flowing, you looked the other way, letting the poison hit the streets every single day. You shielded the mafia, you let the planes fly through the air. The cost of your operation, millions caught in the dark snare. American servicemen overseas, 30,000 hooked on smack. In Vietnam, you very war, you fighting there is fueling their attack. Air America flying cover, turning a blind eye to the cargo. Oil drums packed with the opium, ready for Chicago. Tony Poe admitted it, the man from Apocalypse. Now it's crew. That opium got special clearance, and you knew exactly what to do. The CIA was profiting, the release facilitating the flow, watching addiction spiral, letting the sick smoke. You made a deal with the devil, dirty money, dirty change, trading human addiction for a geopolitical gain. You saw the heroin flowing, you looked the other way, letting the poison hit the streets every single day. You shielded the mafia, you let the planes fly through the air. The cost of your operation, millions caught in the dark snare. Hypocrisy in the boardroom, talking about freedom and life, while your allies are pushing poison, inflicting internal strife. The very war on drugs you preach, you were undermining its core. Open the book, see the lies, there's a hell of a lot more. The political agenda said the ends justify the means, but the human cost of that heroin destroyed a million dreams. You fought the communists with money stained by the addiction's pain, fueling a dark underworld that forever remains. You set the stage for decades of drug violence and despair, because your priorities were resources and a world that you could share. You made a deal with the devil, dirty money, dirty change, trading human addiction for a geopolitical gain. You saw the heroin flowing, you looked the other way, letting the poison hit the streets every single day. You shielded the mafia, you let the planes fly through the air. The cost of your operation, millions caught in the dark snare. You talk about protecting the nation, but you flooded our streets with smack. You sacrificed the health of your own soldiers and funded criminals to fight your wars. You created the monster you pretended to fight, and the addicts paid the highest price. You turned blind eyes into a business model.
of the Americas where the brutal tactics are taught. 60,000 operatives, the lessons that they caught, exporting terror to the south under Operation Condor's reign, crushing civilian dissent, causing mass unending pain. They got the files on the massacres. The U.S. Embassy knew the score, saw the killings is comparable to killing chicken and wanted more. They want a Soekarno gone, a nationalist who threatened the gold, the copper, the oil, the resources, a story often told. Deathless, you trained the hands that took the life. You were fully aware of the savage, brutal, genocidal strife. You abandoned every human right, every moral code and vow. All the control of politics and the wealth of the now. 2.5 million souls and in the news you lost to the fear. While the CIA got updates, pretending not to hear. The American trained economists came in to secure the land. Make sure the new regime play by the rules that you planned. Neoliberalism's rewards for the Western corporations, prize built on a foundation of silence, horror in their eyes. The Nazi war criminal clouds, Barbara, you let them run free there. Even helped them escape Germany, showing that you just don't care. As long as the dictators rule through terror, keeping your friends secure. You bless the violence, making sure the profit was pure. Deathless, you trained the hands that took the life. You were fully aware of the savage, brutal, genocidal strife. You abandoned every human right, every moral code and vow. All the control of politics and the wealth of the now. 2.5 million souls and in the news you lost to the fear. While the CIA got updates, pretending not to. You call it a black hole of history, a consequence you overlook. But every single murder person is written in the sacred book. You didn't just stand by, you gave them the names and the guns. Your fingerprints on the worst mass murders when all is said and done. The cleanup of the country, cleansing of the left support. But anybody suspected got dragged to the terrorist dark court. Terrible things to the women, tortures we won't describe. And your diplomats were aware, letting the violence thrive. The revolution was hailed as the West's best news for years, while the whole country was drowned in blood and endless tears. Deathless, you trained the hands that took the life. You were fully aware of the savage, brutal, genocidal strife. You abandoned every human right, every moral code and vow. All the control of politics and the wealth of the now. 2.5 million souls and in the news you lost to the fear. While the CIA got updates, pretending not to hear. You preached democracy while you trained the butchers who destroyed it. You put profit over people and stood by as millions were slaughtered. You have no moral high ground, and history will forever hold you accountable for the black hole you created for the world. When the truth starts to unravel, when the secrets start to leak, gotta control the story, gotta make the public meet. This Operation Mockingbird, the bird that never sings true. 500 journalists on payroll, working just for you. From the New York Times to CBS, they sold the front page line. Embedded in the newsroom, making sure your story shines. Frank Wisdom's mighty wordlets are playing the propaganda tune. Control the literate magazines right under the western moon. You killed the mockingbird, silenced the independent press, trading integrity for a story that would serve your consciousness. You bought the columnist, the editor, the broadcast team, turning the free press into a dark and hidden stream. Your narrative was delivered verbatim right beneath the byline. The poison pill and the knowledge, destroying the public trust for all time. They infiltrated Hollywood, the student movements to every corner of communication. Had your operatives running through, the public was kept in the dark about the darkness you were in, thinking they were getting facts where the deception would begin. A friendly chat with Henry Luce, founder of Time magazine, a learning with the American century ago that was so keen, avoiding the suspicion, keeping the journalists blind so they wouldn't know they were being used by the clandestine kind. You killed the mockingbird, silenced the independent press, trading integrity for a story that would serve your consciousness. You bought the columnists, the editors, the broadcast team, turning the free press into a dark and hidden stream. Your narrative wasn't written verbatim right beneath the byline. The poison pill and the knowledge, destroying the public trust for all time. When the church committee exposed it, the lie was finally clear. The force that was supposed to protect us was the very thing we should fear. You didn't trust the people with the truth, you hid it in plain sight. You deserve no credit for the dark role you played in the night. You planted the seeds of distrust that grow in today's confusion, when nobody knows what's real anymore, trapped in the illusion. Every time the public doubts the news, your legacy rings true. That was the mighty wordlets of playing the tune that you choose. Even after the exposure, the damage had been done. The faith in the forth a state of victory that you had won. You killed the mockingbird, silenced the independent press, trading integrity for story that would serve your consciousness. You bought the columnists, the editors, the broadcast team, turning the free press into a dark and hidden stream. Your narrative was delivered verbatim right beneath the byline. The poison pill and the knowledge, destroying the public trust for all time. You poison the foundation of democracy by turning the press into a puppet. You destroyed the public's trust in everything they read, saw, and heard. You betrayed the very journalists who thought they were serving the truth. You are the architect of today's manufactured confusion. Yeah. June 6, 56, a normal commute in the underground. Army scientists in a tunnel, not a single warning sound. Carrying a light bulb filled with a substance unseen. Bacillus subtilis, part of the covert deadly scene. At a 23rd Street station, they executed the plan. Smashed the bulb on the track bed, unleashing the test on man. Trillions of bacteria airborne, a silent, speedy attack, and not a single soul was asked. There was no turning back. You used the subway as your lab, the citizens as your test. A stunning breach of the Nuremberg Code, putting lives to the ultimate stress. 5 minutes after the release, it spread from 14 to 59. You treated living people like data, terrifying behind a study of vulnerability on biological attack. You use your own people and there's no way you can take it back. You told the world it was harmless, that the bacteria was benign, but some strains are pathogenic, a toxic, dangerous sign. You were looking for the speed, the weapon potential that day. How fast a germ can travel across the railway. They published the whole results in the paper, coding crass on how easy it is to strike at the unassuming mass. No consent was ever given, no signature on the form, just everyday commuters caught in the hidden toxic storm. You used the subway as your lab, the citizens as your test. A stunning breach of the Nuremberg Code, putting lives to the ultimate stress. 5 minutes after the release, it spread from 14 to 59. You treated living people like data, terrifying behind a study of vulnerability on biological attack. You use your own people and there's no way you can take it. You took the law into your own hands, thinking you were above rules, turning innocents into test subjects. You were nothing but heartless fools. The trust of the public placed in you, you shattered it with one blow. This is the darkest kind of power, letting the evil freely flow. The whole incident came out in the 70s when the truth was finally told. Another piece of the dark puzzle for the public to unfold. What other cities, what other tests did you carry out at night? Hiding your crimes in the shadows, far from the public light. The risk to the health, the deception, the willingness to betray. For a theoretical weapon, you threw all your ethics away. You used the subway as your lab, the citizens as your test. A stunning breach of the Nuremberg Code, putting lives to the ultimate stress. 5 minutes after the release, it spread from 14 to 59. You treated living people like data, terrifying behind a study of vulnerability on biological tag. You used your own people and there's no way you can take it back. You swore to protect this country, but you used its citizens as guinea pigs in a biological experiment. You violated the fundamental human rights and betrayed the trust of every single person riding that train. You broke the Nuremberg Code, and you have the audacity to call this service. You are a disgrace to your